Hello, people of YouTube. My name is Steve Gray, and thank you for watching. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, leave a like, and feel free to comment down below. So I'm still working on the lighting, trying to figure out exactly where I need to put it, where you can see my entire face. So I got the hat tilted up even more right now, so hopefully that'll fix the problem. If not, I am going to continually mess with the lighting until I find a spot that I would like it in. Anyway, today we are talking about Dr. Stone Season 1, kind of a general recap about what happened, general thoughts about what will happen in Season 2, and I am just going to scroll back, way back to my first review of Dr. Stone Season 1, Episode 1 review. So, kind of the first episode, what's going on? Everybody's kind of doing their own thing, kind of typical high school situation here. You got the three main characters. You got Taiju, you got Yuzuriha, and you got Senku, all kind of doing their own things. Taiju's looking at these birds that are turned to stone, and he thinks that they're actual real. They look real. He just keeps finding them all over the place, and they seem like they look real. So he's not really sure what's going on with that. And then, boom, bing, out of nowhere, giant green flash of light. Everybody turns to stone. Meanwhile, Senku, the other main character, or the main character in the series, he somehow gets depetrified with bat guano, which is basically just bat poop, constantly dripping on him over a certain time span. After, 3,700 years, cave develops, bats go in it, drips on him, and eventually he gets out and he's good to go. And then he tries to basically survive. He is not very strong physically. He's very strong mentally. So he's basically putting all his energy into just living at this point in time. Makes himself a little hut. Drags Taiju into the cave at some point. He gets unpetrified. And then Taiju decides that he's going to be the muscles. So they kind of figure out how to create a serum that will unpetrify people from the stone. And the first one they are going to do is Yuzuriha, because Taiju needs to confess his love to her. However, going on more into like episode 2, I believe, they are basically doing their thing, gathering ingredients, gathering stuff for science experiments, etc. And they get run down by actual lions, a lion pride, and they run to where they know an MMA fighter used to be, and they depetrify him. His name is Tsukasa, and he basically insta-kills the lion. So, kind of moving on to episode 3 here. Tsukasa, he has different ideas about society. He only wants to resurrect the children, people that are probably like 20-ish to younger, whatever, and he is killing a bunch of adults in the process, like literally murdering them, because technically all of these people that are encased in stone are still alive. As we know, you can't just put the pieces back together and make them living again. As long as they are an entire statue and whole, you can depetrify them, they're fine. But Senku tried doing this to other people's like body parts, hands, legs, etc. And they're not living anymore. So he's literally going around murdering people. And his plan is basically to get rid of Senku, because he is the only one that knows how to do science. And he is going to start a new world that is, peaceful and prosperous, where only technically the strong survive. So moving on to episode 4, gets caught, everybody gets caught, and Senku is inevitably at a place, episode 4 and 5, where he's put in a position where he is either going to save Yuzuriha's life, Yuzuriha is going to die, he is going to get away, or he might die. Inevitably, he decides to give himself up in order to basically allow Yuzuriha to live, and he would die. And basically, this would mean that Taiju and Yuzuriha would have no reason not to join Tsukasa and his Empire of Might, because there's nowhere else to go and they need protection. So, kind of moving on to episode 5-ish, 5, 6, 7. Somewhere around that general area. We learn that Senku isn't actually dead, because he's got a little bit of stone on the back of his neck, which is why he's always kind of stretching and doing this for like the first 5 or 6 episodes or so. And Yuzuriha and Taiju figure this out, put it on the back of his neck, and he is alive again. Basically, even if there's a little small part, once you are depetrified, pretty much all of your illnesses, ailments, etc., everything goes away, and you are kind of reborn. in every sense of the word. Moving on to episode 6, we get Kohaku, who saw that Tsukasa attacked Senku. It doesn't seem to be for any reason, but he was trying to kill her. So what she does is attacks him. Tsukasa traps her under a tree to die, and he basically says, I'm going to go to your village and conquer your village, and then everyone's going to be on my side. But as we know from later in the season, that doesn't actually happen. So Senku strolls along, figures it out, saves her. She says she likes him. He thinks she has a crush on him. She's like, no, as a person. She gets angry. Don't call her lioness. Don't call her gorilla. You will get zonked on the head. Moving on to like episode 7, episode 8, that general area. Senku is not allowed in the village. He can do whatever he wants outside of the village. He's introduced to Chrome. They have a science battle, or sorcery battle, as Chrome used to call it. And Senku already knows everything, so he ends up winning that battle and gives Genro and Kenro, the two brothers that guard the Ishigami village, he gives, I believe it is Kenro, a golden spear that Genro is very, very jealous of. Going on to episode 8, we get Suki, or Sukai, and she is basically has a melon on her head with little holes in it because she cannot see, I believe it is close up, so she is farsighted, I believe. Basically, she has, they call it the dizziness or blurry vision, and she uses the pinhole effect to give herself a better vision, which is why she's always wearing the melon on her head. But they are going to try to make antibiotics for Ruri, Kohaku's sister, in order to save her life, because she has, I believe it is some sort of form of pneumonia. So they are going to try to make antibiotics. Next episode, Gen comes along to see if Senku is actually dead, and everybody's about to kill him, and then Senku realizes that it's very easy to sway him on his side because he can use science to create things that Gen used to love that is impossible for Tsukasa to do. So Gen is basically swayed to his side. Now going on to around episode 10, 11 or so, Gen gets almost murdered by Magma, who is probably the most powerful man in the village, because he is mistaken for Senku, because he doesn't want him taking over the village, etc., getting people on his side. He wants Ruri to die, so that way he can win her marriage in the grand bout and become the chief of the village, etc., do whatever he wants. Again, actually manages to go back to Tsukasa, and we learn that, yes, Senku is dead. At least that's what Tsukasa is led to believe. Moving on to episode 11, get to see Suiki's face. She is a very pretty, beautiful girl, but then we learn, obviously, she needs glasses. Senku makes glasses for her. Everything is good to go, and I believe we get Kaseki on their side as well around this particular time period. He is the old muscular man, excellent craftsman. He's about 60 or so. He's the one that is making all the glass bottles for Senku in order to mix chemicals to make the antibiotics for Ruri. So we need, in episode 12 here, we need a very dangerous gas. I believe it is sulfur. Anybody that gets in contact with it basically dies, which is why Senku makes a silver spear, and if it oxidizes black, that means you are in the death range. So they create gas masks, which is delightful. Moving on to episode kind of 13, 14, 15, in this general area. This is kind of, I believe, if I remember correctly, where the grand bout takes place. Basically, it's all of the male in the village that want to be the new chief fighting against each other in order to get Ruri's hand in marriage. So we obviously want the Kingdom of Science to win this. So basically what happens here is Kohaku is in it, Chrome is in it, Genro Kenro's in it, Magma's in it, a couple other villagers are in it that are kind of no-names. Everybody gets defeated. Chrome actually manages to defeat Magma by lighting his clothes on fire. Kenro, unfortunately, who is technically stronger than Magma, I would say, gets defeated because of unsportsmanlike conduct, where he goes to ask Jasper something, and then he gets knocked on the head while he's asking Jasper something in the middle of it, which is not fun. But Chrome, as I said, Chrome ends up defeating Magma with fire, using Suika's melon glasses. And then it is him versus Senku. Chrome was supposed to win, but Chrome is basically knocked out, so he has no way of winning. Unfortunately. Also, the reason Kohaku is disqualified is because Mantle, Magma's kind of right-hand evil, creepy little dude, says that Suika is drowning in the river, and Kohaku is literally the only one fast enough to go save her if needed. It's probably fake. We don't know. Kohaku doesn't want to take that chance. Nobody blames you for not wanting to take that chance. So, Senku is now the chief of the village. Episode kind of 15 here, Ruri gets her antibiotic. She is good to go and saved. Senku says, oh, I want a divorce. But all the ingredients are created to create the antibiotic. We give Ruri the antibiotic, and it looks like she's taking a turn for the worse, and that it might be a different form of pneumonia that cannot be treated with the antibiotics that Senku is able to make. But in reality, it is. Koyaku, Ruri, and Kohaku's father is very, very mad about this particular thing and not happy that he thinks his daughter is dying. It got much worse. In reality, it is just the bacteria trying to fight off the antibiotics. So Ruri is saved. Happily ever after. We're good to go. Moving on to episode kind of 16 and 17 here, we learn basically what happened to the petrification world and why everybody's petrified to a certain extent. There were 6 people, including Zenku's stepfather, Byakuya, Lillian, a famous singer, and 4 other scientists were on board the International Space Station as well. They saw the entire Earth basically turn to stone. All of the people on the Earth, I should say, turned to stone. They ended up landing back on Earth, on what is now Ishigami Village, the island. Obviously, after 3,700 years, it's going to look different than it did. And we learn that in the last episode, we kind of learn that he leaves it's a glass record for Senku to hear in the future for him to play, which we will get to momentarily. But basically, inevitably, most of these people end up dying because of pneumonia because they have no way to cure it. 2 of the scientists or astronauts that were on the space station actually go out to try to get antibiotics for it, but inevitably die in the process. And nobody else wants to go out because obviously the ocean is too hard and vast for their boats that they have, which kind of sucks. Going on to episode 18 or so. Kenro gets glasses. They're working on the generator, doing all sorts of science stuff, more science goodness. Moving on to episode 19, we get introduced to 2 characters from the Empire of Might, Tsukasa's Empire. We get Hoga and Homario, which are both very agile. One is a great fighter who has this kind of spear thing that he can rotate to hit in any direction. And the other is basically, she was like in a circus or some sort of acrobat. She ends up lighting Ishigami Village on fire, which is not fun. They have to rebuild everything. But Senku ends up creating katanas for all of his soldiers. They realize they can't win that fight. They back out, tell Tsukasa that Senku is alive. Yuzuria and Taiju currently do not know that Senku is alive. Well, they do and they don't. They don't know that Tsukasa knows that Senku is alive. So basically Tsukasa says, don't tell them. We are basically just keep an eye on them. We might end up using them as hostages or something so far. So moving on to kind of episode 2021, we get more electricity. Senku kind of powers the entire village because Kaseki and Chrome end up making a water wheel, which allows for more light bulbs to go all over the place so they can continue working into the night, which is delightful. Episode 21, continuously kind of working on everything, gathering materials for cell phones. Same with episode 22. Episode 22 is actually a little bit different than episode 20 and 21. Basically what happens is Mantle, Chrome, and Senku all go into a cave to find very rare minerals, which they do. Magma actually ends up he's thinking about killing them, but it actually ends up saving Senku from deteriorating rocks. Chrome thinks that Magma was going to kill Senku, but in reality, he was trying to save him. So Senku finally got under Magma's skin, and as long as Senku keeps producing good stuff, Magma will not care that he is the chief of the village, and will continue to allow him to kind of do what he is doing. Going on to episode 23, the cell phone is basically completed at this point in time, 100%. Kaseki doesn't really feel that he's part of the Chrome Senku, bro group, but in reality he is. Makes him cry, makes him very happy, very sad, but we have cell phones. They test out the cell phones, everything works, and it's beautiful. The only problem is we need more receivers, and because they don't have time to make more actual portable ones, they are basically just going to use wired different receivers in order to go into the one tower in order to communicate with each other when they are fighting Tsukasa and all of his army. Going on to the last episode, as I said, I was talking about the record. Senku actually breaks open the headstone of his father's because it's not it's the headstone, it is a time capsule, in which case there is basically the end of a glass bottle made into a record, so he hears his father's motivational voice. His birthday is somewhere in there. He gets a telescope so they can make an observatory to observe the sky, observe Tsukasa, etc. Don't look in the sun with it. He warns everybody to do that. Christmas, New Year's, we get that in there as well, a little celebration. As the sun rises, and tungsten we get to see in the UV rays of the sunset and sunrise. We get to see that glowing, which is very pretty and very beautiful. Lillian ends up singing kind of a very motivational song at the end of the record. Byakuya is like, "Yup, I love you, but you don't want to hear that. Just go get them, do what you got to do, bring everybody back to where they were." And that's kind of where we end the season 1 off with. And we don't really know what's going to happen at this point in time. We are waiting to see the grand old fancy fight, which we're not going to get until season 2. Season 2 probably won't take place until probably, I'm guessing, July. It started in July, so it would make sense for season 2 to start back up in July of 2020. Might be earlier, might be later, not really sure. All we know for a fact is that at the end of episode 24, we got a little tidbit saying, yes, season 2 is going to happen, and they are currently working on it, which is delightful because, minus me getting angry at a few of the episodes that were kind of boring, and because of that copyright issue with episode 5, as I'm sure you have all seen, possibly. See, I generally like the anime. Basically, if you want the extremely short version of it, everybody gets frozen in stone. Science Guy's unfrozen. Science Guy unfreezes a couple people. Person doesn't agree with him. Finds a village. Gets a village on his side. Builds sciencey stuff to defeat people that don't like him. And that's kind of the end of it. if you want the extremely short, dumbed down version of it, as simple as I can make it. That little 30-second thing that'll be good to go for season 2. But generally, what I think is we're probably going to get several episodes of a battle. I don't know how long that battle is going to take place because this anime is very much more based on the science than it is all the action. As we see with a lot of shonen, that's why I think so many people like it, because as we see with a lot of shonen anime, it's all around the action, fighting, etc., training, Goku, Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, etc., but One Punch Man, just to name a few. But this is more about the science behind everything and creating things, so it's kind of a little different spin on the typical shonen formula, which is nice to see. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen, how long the fight is going to take place, what the strategy is. I mean, it could take the entire season 2. I doubt it. But I think inevitably we're going to have to learn who petrified the world and why. And if this anime does end, I don't know how long the manga is going to go on to, but I'm guessing it's going to end where basically they are back in modern society. Everyone is depetrified, and Taiju finally confesses his love to Yuzeria. Even though they are barely in it, I thought they were supposed to be main characters, but my god, they were in like 3 episodes, maybe 5, and then we didn't see them again until the end of the season. So I'm hoping we get a lot more of them next season, and that would be delightful to see them. And also to see a lot of people in the Tsukasa Empire swayed to Senku and the Kingdom of Science. My name is Steve Gray. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a good one.